to go ahead and start that recording. And then again, if you have questions after the session, we'll drop in the email address for you to be able to send those to. Zoe will put that in the chat now. And then, of course, at the end, we'll also send that over in case you have any questions that have not been answered. So without further ado, I know you're not here to hear me talk, so I'll pass it back to Dr. Lee to start the presentation on student success.
Thank you. All right, I should ask this key question first. Would you like me to share from my side, Zoe? Okay, all right. That makes sense, but I was like, what? I didn't ask. All right. Okay, hold on. Probably should have. It's open, I promise. I just have a lot open. All right. Here we go. All right. And share. Okay. All right. Can you all see my slides, team? Make sure somebody can indicate that just to make sure.
Yes, they're all good.
Thank you. You never know. I feel like my PC is tired sometimes, so gotta double check. All right, y'all, we'll just go ahead and dive right on in. As mentioned, my name is Shernita Lee. I'm Associate Vice Provost for Student Success. I've been at App State about 2.5 years now. Time is flying. And student success is something that I really enjoy talking about and working with campus colleagues on this topic. So we will jump in. So the goals of this brief session together, I'm aiming for about 30 minutes, but if you have questions, if you're like me, sometimes I forget what the question was. So if you want to go ahead and like jot them down, if you're driving, don't do that while you're driving. But I will make sure we get back to those questions. And it's going to be kind of overview. I hadn't actually given this particular talk before. I do a lot of talks each year, but I hadn't had it for parents of current students. So it was exciting to think about like, oh, if I could have all the parents in the room of current students, what would I want to share? So that's kind of how I approached it based on the phone calls. Hope my phone doesn't ring while I'm in here, but hey, we're going to go for it. So I want to address some of the common themes to observe for your student throughout the semester, share different resources that we have to support your student and their success. And then hopefully through the information that I share with you today, that you see our commitment at App State to supporting you and your student. All right, so when I put this slide together, I'm like, okay, the calendar semester is flying by. You probably feel like it was yesterday that your student was starting in August, and now it is almost December. And so I want you all to think back to August. You know, what signs did you notice in your student's transition? Were there some visible signs? Were there some emotional, some text messages, some calls? Maybe it's to you, to others, but students all have transition. Doesn't matter if it's their first year at App, they're continuing at App. It is a transitional period in different ways. It's how to live with a roommate, whether it's on campus, off campus, who washes dishes, who folds clothes. Students bring that, and it very much is part of their success. Then I want you to think about, how do you navigate those observable changes? Now, I say observable because sometimes our students may not be very much outward with what's really going on. So sometimes it's that pattern that you notice, whether it's in their voice, again, word choices they use, and so forth. But how do you navigate those changes in your student during the semester to prompt a change? Now, when I talk to parents or families of students, they know the changes are happening, but sometimes it's like this hope is there. It's like small, but it's there. And you're like, okay, I'll wait to see what happens at the end of the semester. All right. And sometimes we may be at that point where it's like, okay, at this point it is, let's see what happens at the end of the semester. But oftentimes it's usually like these kind of peaks and valleys, kind of up and down that happens. And so once you notice that with your student, I would encourage you to seek action sooner rather than later. Because if a student makes it obvious enough to you all as their families, then that means they are seeking help in some way. And that's something we want to promote and encourage our students to do, which is to seek help and seek support. And like, let's normalize it. Like, I need help still. Everybody needs help, right? So what are some negative themes to be on the lookout for? Again, it looks different for every student. So this is not one size fits all, but this is just in my experience of working with students at App State and at other universities. Some negative themes you may notice is avoidance of questions. So you're like, how was class X today? Yeah, it was all right. It was fine. Or they're like, I went to class, I go sometimes. So it's really vague responses to questions about that. Same thing in relation to their personal life. So right now, this sorority and fraternity rush season, and your student may or may not have decided to participate in that. But if they are doing that, making that decision, how is that impacting their other time commitments, right? And that's where time management is a huge factor. Attendance challenges. If your student is not a morning person and they have 8 a.m. classes, and you know they haven't been making most of those classes because they tell you, hey, I just woke up and it's 11 o'clock. That could be one of those things to be slightly concerned about if they're not going to class. Shifting priorities. Students are getting to know themselves no matter what year. I always tell students the way you start as a freshman, you're going to be so different once you graduate. Like, you're going to have all these experiences that are weaved in between, but they suddenly have sometimes a shift in what's important to them, and not more or less as it relates to values. They do struggle with that as well, but suddenly the priority is hanging out with my friends. Now, are you hanging out with your friends? That's more important now than going to class. And I have some students who've made that decision. And then the parents notice that shift in priority. And then that's when they call me and we try to have a reset moment with the student and say, hey, you can find a balance. Not saying you can't go to a party and, you know, make new friends, all these things, but we still have to maintain and remember your reason for being here is to be a student. And to be a student means you need to be enrolled. Like, they're all connected. And students don't always see that. Other negative things you may see is a decrease in communication. You know, they don't want to answer the phone. They don't want to answer the text. They don't want to respond to email. That can be some signs that something is going on. Now, it doesn't mean it may be impacting their academic performance, but it could be. And oftentimes when they have that disconnect, even with you all as their families, is usually something they will also experience with their instructors. They'll be like, okay, I had a professor I talked to last week. He was like, I emailed the student. They said they never got an email from me. And I sent them all semester because they noticed the student wasn't there. So decreased communication is another sign. And then another one that I see is this, right? I know they're at a unique age where they're exploring and they have their personalities at this point, but it's a lack of willingness to explore or even discuss solutions. And I separated those because sometimes it's like, hey, what's out there? And sometimes for students, you can share what's out there, but for other students, they don't even want to know what's out there. And so if you notice that, that is another kind of sign where you're coming from a helpful place and you're like, all right, student, this is what I've noticed. Like, how can we move forward? Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I remember from orientation. Here's what I searched online from app website and found, and so forth. So those are some of the negative. Lately in my work with student success, so much work focus on negative, right? So I also thought it was equally important to balance that and focus on the positive. So our students who are doing well, they want to also acknowledge they're doing well. So I wanted to make sure that I offer both perspectives. And you may see a blend of this with your student. You may see they lean more towards one versus another. But when it's positive for a student, they'll share those wins and even the losses. I mentioned that because, right, not all students are going to make all A's. Quite uncommon, right? But sometimes they do. But if you're not doing well, let's say a group project, you didn't get the grade you want. Hopefully the student is communicating that with you. And that is really healthy to establish that pattern and expectation with your student, that it's okay. Like, if they had to, you know, scale the test grade in your exam and you ended up making the lowest grade. Okay, what are you going to do differently? How are you going to move forward? How are we going to continue to do our best? Right? They attend class regularly. They know when class is and they're there. I have some parents who try to track their students on their phone, and that's how they first know the student isn't going to class. They're like, you pinged right there in your dorm room, and I know you have class because you shared your schedule with me. Positive other aspects is they communicate concerns they have with their course. It's like, this class is really hard, or this class reminds me of what I did in high school. It depends on what level they are. They may also communicate issues they're having with roommates. And that's where I really seen a lot of the advocacy happen from parents as it relates to the students, because the student is sharing that. So it doesn't have to pile up so much. And, you know, students kind of get overwhelmed with those sometimes it's little situations, sometimes it's big, and sometimes, hey, we need to get other people involved to come up with a solution. They also have steady communication, and that looks different for every family. So it's however you all define it. If it's like, hey, we got weekly check-ins, is it daily? For my family, it's daily. Like, we all on group chat at least once a day, and I have to talk to my parents at least once a day. Now, I do live further from home, so they want to make sure. It doesn't matter the age. They're like, are you okay? We want to make sure. So steady communication. Another thing, think about, are they registered for the next semester? Early registration for current student ends on the 14th, which is in a couple of days, I believe. So are they registered? Have they thought about what they're taking next? Now, it doesn't mean they have to have a full schedule ready for the spring, but now is the time to sign up because some seats are filling up, some classes are full, they have to get exceptions and be added on wait lists. So are they even registered for spring semester? So you all may not have even known that was open. So fun fact, reach out to your student and say, hey, what are you signed up for the spring? What classes do you have? Because that's happening now. Okay. And then lastly, positive theme is that they will discuss any changes they make. Again, I can tell y'all stories for days because it's always never 2 days that's the same or two situations the same. But it was a parent advocating for their student, and they wanted to make some decisions that I didn't think aligned with student success or was best for the student. And it was clear to me, I don't think the parent knew the student had dropped 4 credit hours. They were like, hey, this student wants to switch modality, and that's just not how it works. And so as parents and families, making sure that your student shares those things, because we do have policies, they do have limits to how many classes they can withdraw from during a term while they remain enrolled. And so we want to make sure that students aren't using all those credits in the first semester. And even more or less, if a parent is paying for it, I get those parents, I paid for this, I'm paying for this. They need to stay enrolled, right? So whatever it is for you, making sure the student discusses those changes with you and inform you as to like why they needed to make the decision. And furthermore, what's the plan moving forward? And so those are some positive themes that I tend to see in students once they kind of get a good grasp and a good feel and pace for their time here as a student. So I wanted to make sure you all were aware that we have a student success webpage, and I've sent several links to my colleague. I'm going to say I probably did a record of sending the most links, but you will get them whether it's in follow-up email or during our time today. But I encourage you to review the student success webpage. There's a lot of resources, a lot of information, and even if you don't remember any of this, because I know we always have a lot of info at app, contact is all, can't go wrong with contact, right? That will get you to a person, whether it's phone, email, and just fun fact, the person is me. So the email goes to me and that phone call goes to me. And you can leave a voicemail and I'll make sure to return your call. So check out our website to learn more info. But again, I'm going to give an overview today for some of this requests I received for this talk. So campus resources is one thing that I want to make sure that I highlight. This is a great summary list to direct your student to. So again, you don't have to remember it all, but it's based on different categories, whether it's academics, financial, organizations and recreation, technology. And so they'll be able to see what resources we have available in those different categories. It's not exhaustive, but this is kind of standardized. That is something for all of our students, but you may have more resources that may be unique to your student once they get into their major and their program and so forth. So campus resources is a valuable resource for your student to take advantage of. Right now, I want to share a little bit about more specific resources, and then I'll have some more like broader ones, and then we'll wrap up for some questions and so forth. So we have a university writing center. I want to make sure that you all know and remember that our writing center is free for use. So your students shouldn't be telling you, hey, I had to pay for this writing consultant. And I encourage them definitely to use this, especially as we're in this age and time of, technology with artificial intelligence and so forth. And so helping students really become strong writers and feel confident in their message and their words, because we are an institution that have writing integrated across the discipline. So that means if your student is a philosophy major, criminal justice, math, they're going to have writing integrated throughout their time as a student. So it's an important skill, one that we don't want to overlook. And we know that students all have different experiences when it comes to writing, but they can get these free appointments by visiting our website. You can do in person, also online if that is preferred. But I encourage them to do appointments. We do drop-ins, but as you all know, sometimes you drop in, nobody's there to expect you, or they're full, right? So that helps students stay organized. So even if you talk to your student and you know they have some upcoming assignments for finals and so forth, go ahead and schedule your appointment for, the last week of November or the first week of December. Go ahead and have that milestone point set so that when it's time to review, you have a draft, something ready, so they don't procrastinate, right, and spend that last few moments of getting together your talk or presentation. And so They have consultants that are trained again to help students make sure they learn from it. So it's not like, hey, edit this for me for free. Like that's not what it's about. It's really teaching the students the skills, helping them learn how to receive feedback. We all know students can really gain a lot of insight about themselves in their writing by learning how to receive feedback. Sometimes they've never had to receive feedback. And so we want them to get used to doing that. Also think about how to improve. And so that is definitely a process that the Writing Center can assist them with. And as I mentioned before, it is free and the student can find appointments based on their availability and make sure that we get that handled. So encourage a student to make an appointment with the Writing Center. We also have a Student Learning Center. And so Student Learning Center, we have one located here in Boone and also one in Hickory. So if your student is at either location, then they have access to the Student Learning Center and its resources. They offer a variety of services, including tutoring for several courses. That list is on the Student Learning Center's website. And so I always encourage students right at the start of the semester, go ahead and compare your schedule with what courses we offer tutoring for. Go ahead and see, and then try to attend tutoring, and not just tutoring when you're doing poorly, because that's what sometimes students think tutoring is all about. You can be doing well, you can have an A+ in the class, and now you may have experience with a tutor, and then you may even decide you want to be a tutor in a future term, and then you'll end up working for the Student Learning Center. And so those courses are listed, like I said, on our website. Tutoring is also free. We don't offer it for every course. It's mainly a lot of the courses for students they take in the kind of first 2 years. And these courses are based off of how students perform, if they make a D, a F, or they withdraw from the class. So by our metrics and student success, those are kind of deemed the most difficult classes. And that is how we determine which ones that we serve. It helps students, of course, build their academic skills. They learn things about test taking, planning, time management, and we have drop-in tutoring options for some subjects, and we also have appointment-based. Typically, the ratio is 3-to-1. So again, sometimes students, and that's if it's 3 students, right? It may just be still 1-to-1. But if your student has an accommodation, then it is a 1-to-1 ratio with the tutor and the student. We also offer through testing services. If your student is taking a test in preparation for a credential or for graduate school and so forth, that is another resource that we offer, and that is located as well in Boone and Hickory. So encourage your student to take advantage of that. If it's a math course, if it's a business course, sometimes it's a gap in their foundational knowledge. We all know how the pandemic impacted students, and we're still learning the effects of that on students and their learning. And so it's okay, again, to get help. I don't probably have to convince you all of that, but encourage your students to just say, hey, just go to one appointment, like schedule an appointment, see how it works, see how you feel. And they may find a tutor that they really can gravitate to and that they feel supported. And if they're not doing it this way, I will also plug in, and they also can check out office hours, reach out to their instructor. But usually if you get students the options of that, they'll be like, oh, I'll go for a peer, and then they go to the Student Learning Center. But still utilize your professor, your instructor. That's what they're there for as well. So we also have, through the Student Learning Center, academic success coaching as well as peak workshops. So academic success coaching, that is free. Everything I'm talking about is free, for the record. I don't think there's anything I'm going to say, hey, this costs this amount. Everything's free. So for academic success coaches, this is where your student gets a one-on-one meeting. And so for some students, it's really helpful. So let's say right now you're talking to your student and you're like, they're having a hard time. I can't get it quite out of them, like what the issues are, but I know something's there. It'll be great for them just to schedule an appointment with the academic success coach. And in that one-on-one appointment, they can really talk about it. So if your student may say, hey, for me, it's organization. I meet with students even during the middle of the semester who still haven't been able to access their course materials. That's something we can fix. And we did fix. We walked over together to IT, and I'm like, help this student figure out how to use these Microsoft products. We have a solution, right? And so sometimes you may not get that information as parents and families, and that's where it's helpful for them to talk to a peer, an academic success coach, and really figure out what's going on. Sometimes it may be your student was sick for a couple of weeks and they got behind. Now that I'm behind, how do I catch up? Does my professor take late work? And even if they don't take late work, how do I catch up and make sure I understand that content that I missed, so that I am up to par and ready for the final, right? And so it's a lot of moving pieces when it comes to performance and that final grade that shows up on the transcript, right? It has a whole story. And so making sure they meet with the academic success coach. Meetings are typically 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the needs of your student. But roughly, I would say 45 minutes is usually the sweet spot. So where you can really tackle into, like, why are you at app? What encouraged you to apply? What are some challenges you're experiencing? What do you want to do differently? For study skills, that's one that's really popular because sometimes students don't know how to study. And I know for me, it's hard to tell other people, here's how I studied when I was a student. It may not work for you. Some people learn in different ways, and your student may learn in a complete different way than you do. And so this is a helpful way for the student to create a personalized success plan, and that's going to be tailored to that your student's particular needs. We also offer PEAK workshops. PEAK stands for Personal Excellence Through Academic Knowledge. And so those are free workshops. So think of those as their 1-hour workshops offered throughout the week. And it's the same one each day during the week. So plan out your semester, for instance, that'd be like on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It'd be the same time so that we can hopefully capture students who have class or other conflicts, and they have the opportunity to get that information. In the session, they cover these important topics, whether it's note-taking, academic reading, stress management. Some students have test anxiety. How do you help a student prepare when they know the content, but they struggle to perform and match that on their tests? How do you prepare for a final exam, especially if it's their first one? Sometimes students get real stressed about it and really nervous. And we say, yeah, go in and do your best. But how do you prepare for an exam? How do you study? Make sure you have that content. And they're not just taking one final, right? They have a lot of classes, 4 or 5 maybe, and making sure that they dedicate enough time to study across the board for the classes that need it most, and making sure that they have that information ready to discuss for that examination. Same thing for procrastination. So encourage your student to take advantage of these PEAK workshops. As I mentioned, they're free, 1 hour, and that's helpful. We have academic success courses as well. I didn't put it inside of this presentation, but those are half semester courses. And so those dive a little deeper into some of these themes. But again, it depends on what your student needs. And if your student already has 14, 15 credit hours, then they probably don't need another class or two added on their schedule. It may be, hey, you need this skill. How can you make sure that you understand and get knowledge to make sure that you excel in that skill, and then you move on to the next? So that works well for some students who have busier schedules. Maybe your student is also working. We see that quite commonly as well with a lot of our students. So that's those pieces. We also have a Center for Student Success and Community. This is one of our newer units on campus. And this group serves as a wayfinder for academic support. So it has a physical space for students, which is helpful. It's located in the Union, so it's central here on our Boone campus in room 217. And so again, if your student doesn't know where to start, they can just walk in there. They have some front desk assistants, and they will make sure that we get the student schedule. Maybe they don't know, and the factor that is stopping them from taking advantage, maybe your student may say, well, I don't know how to make an appointment. We can help you make an appointment, right? I can make it for them. I do it all the time. Like whatever students need, we don't want that to be the hurdle, right? That stops them from getting what they need, especially if they work to communicate and figure out what that need is. So I wanted to make sure you all knew about that information. All right, so with that, the last few slides are just some general tips that I now take off or kind of keep on my student success hat, but layer it with my parent hat. Now, my child is not in college, but I've still found that this is important, and I wanted to make sure that you all knew this, especially as we think about the context of student success. So that goal, first one, is to know key dates. Now, your student, I don't even know the names of y'all students, so it doesn't matter. I'm not even trying to find them. They may tell you some dates, but you can find out for yourself what those dates are. And so I encourage you to make sure that you bookmark the links so that you know what is the academic calendar and schedule. So if your student is telling you, hey, I don't have to come back home. That's what I see a lot. I don't have to come back after Thanksgiving. All right, y'all can see the screenshot here. Last day of class is what? December 3rd. That is not right after Thanksgiving. That means they need to come back after Thanksgiving. I love when students try that. Well, it's not a whole lot I'm going to be missing. But what you're doing then, your student's going to be trying to ask for all these exceptions. Oh, can I be virtual the rest of it? And I got asked yesterday, and the answer is no. Like your modality when you signed up for that class was in person, you need to finish the class in person. If you were taking it virtual, then Yes, you're going to continue virtual, but making sure they return after the holiday break. I know you're going to enjoy bonding with them and having them at home in your refrigerator and using your heat and water, but they need to make sure they come back and finish the semester in whatever mode that they were signed up for. They have reading day. Reading day is a day where students should be studying, preparing. It's usually really low key and on campus. I would encourage them to check out a lot of our de-stress events. They have so many cute events. They may make tote bags, stuffed animals. Like it's something every year, different themes. But they can do that on reading day to get your head in the game and get ready to take your final exams. And then from there, you see grading period, and you'll know when grades are posted and all that good stuff. So grades are due. Make sure I read here by the 15th, December 15th at 1 p.m. All right. So it sometimes takes a little bit for the system to refresh, but by the 16th, 17th, grades are posted. Okay. And so encourage your student to look for it. They may go into their online management as you learn is what we use here, but ultimately they can go in AppleNet and see their grades once they're posted. So it's important for you all as families, at least in my mind, to know this information because it's on our website. But I wanted to, again, synthesize it and tell you why you need to know it and then how to find that information. And so those links will take you to the Office of the Registrar's page, which deals with registration. And these are the key dates your students need to know. Another one I'll highlight, right? You see when we have holidays, when there is no school. So if your student is home on that day, cool. It was fall break. Got it. Fall break is on Monday, Tuesday, not Monday to Friday, right? So if you see some different patterns happening, then we got to figure that out with our students. So, and also you can see registration information, last day to drop class, and so forth. So that's really helpful for you all to know. Another one I see sometimes with students, I love them. They're so funny. They sometimes say it's like such a mystery, like it's cold in Boone. I don't know if we have class. It should be canceled. And they decide in their mind it's canceled, okay? There's a way to verify. And the same way it works for many of you all, right? When you want to know something is open or closed, we look it up. Same is true for the university. And so if you want to know that information, you can look at App State Alert and you can look at the operation. So I pulled this morning. We're under normal conditions. That means your students have class today. Yes, it was freezing last night. Yes, I had to drive to campus over a little bit of ice too, but campus is open. So unless your student modality switched to online, then they should be in class today. We see this a lot in the winter. So come January, I think last year we had it where it was cold for about first 2 weeks. Some students did not realize that we were having class, like we were in session, they weren't in session. So make sure you check that out. And in case your student asks you like, I don't know if I'm going to class, it's so cold, I don't think we're open. You can be like, yep, y'all normal conditions, you're open today. Another way to find it, like a different way, is through Office of Human Resources. And this is more like the employee side, but it communicates a lot of information. It'll tell you what time, and they keep the historical information as well about the condition and what time, what duration it was. So they, for instance, had a condition change at 8 p.m. the other night. It was freezing temperatures. That information was sent widely to the campus community. You all likely won't get those emails. So again, I wanted to direct you to where you can find it out for yourself because it's public information as well. All right, so you can help solve that problem for them if they say they don't know if they have class. Okay. Know the amount of effort your students should be giving their courses. I understand, underline should be, because students, they're so great. They like to minimize how much time they should be giving their class. So I wanted to give you all at least this rough, it's approximate, everything in life is approximate calculation. But if your student is taking 15 credit hours, I think we all need to agree they should be working on course content more than just those 15 hours that they're in class, right? I can't hear y'all, but I'm assuming yes, Sharnita, yes, we're with you, right? Because that's your class instruction time. You have to have time that you are prepping for notes, taking your notes. You're in a study group, work groups, you're reviewing articles, you're writing, these pieces of information documents that you need for these assignments. And so on average, it's about 3 hours of effort per 1 credit hour. So if your student is taking 15 credit hours on their schedule, assuming they didn't change anything, like that's what they have, because drop-in period has ended. So that means they're stuck with that credit hour amount. If they're taking 15 credit hours, then they should be giving 45 hours approximately, right, of effort. Now that's give or take. If your student loves math, that was my major, I love math, I might not need 3 hours of effort, but I still have to work outside of class, right? I still have to give it some time. But maybe there's another course that's more challenging for me. For me, it was the history courses and geography. Like, don't ask me what's what nowadays, right? But I have to remember it. I'm like, okay, how can I remember this? Or immunology. Yeah. That one took a lot of study time, and probably more than 3 hours per week. But this is what they should be aiming for. So if you find that your student like, hey, I went to class, I don't have anything else to do, there's always something else to do. If you can get them to share their syllabus with you, that'll be a good starting point. And then you can say, great, you've done all these things. Next week, you have 3 assignments. How about get a head start on that? Because I tell you, they never know what's going to happen in time. Just do what you can when you can, because other things, right, are going to come up. So encourage them to make sure that they are spending enough time on that. All right. So for my wrap up, it's kind of a few other kind of general tips and such in this, but if you can, encourage a student to explore at least one resource. I don't care if it's like, hey, I'm going to send an email to this person. I'm going to go to office hours at least one time. Like, whatever it is, it starts with just that first step, right? Same with walking, right? You just need one step. And once they do it, it becomes easier and easier. And we want them to work towards, right, that advocacy for themselves. But first, they have to feel comfortable. And I recognize that's not always there for students immediately. And that's where you can help us, is give them that goal and encourage them to take advantage of something you learned about today, or through your strategies and how you engage and interact with your student. Your students should always be going to class. I say that because things will happen, whether it's a tire pressure light, which is on my car today with this cold weather, right? Things happen, a dorm, everybody gets sick. It's a lot happening right now, sanitizer season, right? But go to class when you can, because then when something happens, you can use your 2 passes you may have for one of your classes to where you can miss class without an excuse. There are only very few allowable excuse categories that go through the university, and that is like a death of an immediate family member and so forth. And that is still subjective and based on if the instructor agrees to it. So your student should be going to class. I cannot tell you how many students, but they say kind of find out and figure it out, that attendance policies can change your grade. Read their syllabus. Sometimes they read it their first day, but they don't remember it. If it says, hey, you missed more than 4 classes, you will lose a letter grade every additional absence. Sometimes students don't believe that. They're like, oh, I made a B on my test, I got an A on my homework, but you never go to class. Your grade can end up being a D or F in the class based on the policy. So go to class when you can. I know students are smart, they know it, they can teach themselves. Great. Make sure you go to class. I don't care if it's just sitting there, go to class. All right. Also, for parents and families, sometimes folks struggle with this a little bit, but understanding our FERPA policies, students do have privacy rights. I hear from parents all the time. They're like, man, I wish I could know right now, like, how are my students doing in this class? Unfortunately, like, it's not a record until it's complete. Like, I can't tell you how the student is doing in the class until grades post, if you have permission and you have the parent pin and all those things. And I know the system has been updated, so hopefully you've heard from your student to update that information so that you can get it when you need it from the university. But general communication is still possible. I have some parents who just randomly email me, hey, my student hasn't been pushed into any official academic, referral process or anything, but I'm worried about my student. Like, I know them, I'm a parent, they having a hard time. Can you reach out to the student? Sure. I'll send the student an email. I've connected with the student. Then I had other members of my team meet with the student, and they were a great student. I would have never known about the student and their need if the parent hadn't said, hey, reach out. I had a few dads call, right? It doesn't even matter who's calling. It looks a lot of different ways. So if it's a real-time concern, hey, I really, they're not on anybody's radar, but it's like, hey, I have a feeling that they could use an outreach, because sometimes your student, they may not want to take that first step, but if somebody takes a step toward them, then they're willing to reciprocate. That's fine with me. I meet with a lot of students all the time. So they prefer to meet with me, cool. Sometimes they do, sometimes they prefer a peer. Every student is different. So know that you can still reach out. I would say, I won't speak for every unit on campus because this is not umbrella kind of talk. I would say for student success, if there is something that you ever want to talk, meet about, strategize about for your student, that happens typically one-on-one. And I see that more commonly also after the semester grades post. So this is what the parents were like, gave little person X, my student, I gave them that free range this first semester, and I said, do your best. But now I get the GPA, and I'm like, oh, were you even going to class? And that's when we have a meeting and we figure out, okay, what are we going to do differently if the parent is willing to let the student continue and so forth. So I encourage you to create the expectation as soon as you can. If you didn't establish it yet, never too late. To make sure you know how your student is really doing. Like ask them, hey, open up your As You Learn portal. Let's see how your grades look for some of these assignments. Okay, this one I see you didn't do. Is that because you could drop the lowest score, or like talk with me about it. Let's figure it out. So doing that is really helpful. And sometimes parents are like, I don't want to be nosy. I want them to be grown. They have to demonstrate that, right? I got some students I've worked with for like 4 or 5 semesters. They are now at that point. I only got to check in with them about twice a semester. If things looking good, come in, let me come by, let me see you, tell me how your classes are going, and let's make sure you're all set. But when they first started, weekly, I need to know. Let's hear, how are you staying organized? Do you have a planner? Do you not have a planner? If you're not, are you using the notifications, a calendar? It can't just be in their mind. We were talking about that before we started the session. The mind is very powerful, very strong, but don't expect it to remember every single assignment in every class when it's due. That's a lot of pressure, right? And so making sure your students are organized in a way that's helpful for them. And then know that our advisors, they offer a lot of support for our students. Sometimes students don't know it all. They likely don't know it all. And sometimes they don't know the consequences or what can happen if they make the wrong decision. And so I meet with students. They may say, hey, I need to withdraw from the term. Okay, what does that look like? How does that impact you? How does it impact course sequence? Is it really all the classes you're taking, or is it one class? And so once students can really communicate that, we can figure out what a plan is and make sure that they make an informed decision. So that's ultimately what we work to do with our students, is making sure they have that informed decision. Right. So I think I did right about something like that time. I didn't change my clock with time change. So it says almost 1 o'clock, which I know isn't right. But you all can feel free to contact me. I know we have some emails we'll send after the fact that will have all this information kind of synthesized so that you can contact me. But if you do call, I always have to give this spiel, and I hate to know me is to love me. So I'm going to tell you up front, if you call, leave a voicemail. Okay, if you leave a voicemail, I will call you back. If you just call, I cannot go through their phone, go through caller ID for hours. My day not built like that. But if you call, I will absolutely call you back, or have someone from my team, depending on the concern. So definitely make sure you leave a voicemail if you would like phone to be the best mode to reach you. And of course, email works as well. And I mentioned our website, which you'll get that link as well if you want to browse through and find any additional resources. And I'm located here at Central Campus in Boone. Dee Dee Daughtery is also the building where we have our tutoring in. So that's how also, quiz students when they come meet with me. I was like, hey, do you know what tutoring is? They're like, no. I'm like, great, right down the hallway. And then I take them to it. So so that I will stop asking for questions. And again, I know that you're all going to get more information, so I'm going to stop share so I can see my colleague's face. And then we will
discuss. Sweet. Thank you, Sharnita, about all that information. We have a couple of questions in the Q&A that I think are really important to share with everybody on this webinar. So the first one is asking about private spaces. Oh, sorry. Perfect.
All right, hold on 1 second.
Great. I can take the first one, and Sharnita can add in thoughts.
Yeah. So the first one is asking about private spaces for a student to go to. Sometimes asking about like personal study rooms, or just kind of getting out of her dorm, away from people. If there's, great spaces on campus to get kind of that personal space.
Absolutely. Students are able to reserve rooms both in the library if they're looking to get away to have personal space in general, just to be like alone for a minute. They can study, they can do anything. There are rooms in the library that allow them to do that, that they can reserve for up to 4 hours at a time. I always tell students, especially even if you don't need to study, if you just need time to be away for a little bit, especially if you're living in a residence hall, reserve one of those rooms. I think it's a great opportunity for them to step away. And then if they don't need it, they can always cancel it. There's no fee or anything to reserve these rooms, but they are first come, first serve. So that's one great option for students to do that. They can also reserve rooms in the student union, especially if they're part of a club or organization. Sometimes that makes it a little bit easier, but students also, if they're looking for a space, can always do that. A place that's not technically alone, but is good to just kind of center yourself and have a little mindfulness is the solarium, which is located in the student union. There are usually students in there. However, it's pretty much a quiet zone, no talking zone, and it has huge windows out overlooking campus, and then it has a water feature with trees and stuff all inside. So it's nice, especially on days that are a little colder outside. If you just like need some time to yourself, it's very peaceful in there. In addition to giving them a little bit of time to like be away, not be in their residence hall, etc. So Sharnita, we were just talking about, the first question was asking if there are rooms or somewhere that is like a private space on campus for students to go to. We talked about library rooms, student union rooms, if people want to do that, and also the solarium, though it's not private. It is kind of a good centering place to get out of your residence hall. So if you had anything else on that, we can, of course, add that in. And if not, we do have 2 other questions we can get to.
Okay. There are a few room spaces, like individual kind of rooms as needed in the Center for Student Success and Community. So they could reach out to us and say, hey, you know, and students learn in different spaces. So that's why I mentioned it. Sometimes they need to hone in. Depending on purpose, we also have some private interview rooms in Career Development Center. So depending on timing, if they aren't being utilized, then, you know, but the main thing is about planning and prepping. So if your student can say, hey, here's the days, or I need this time, I'm not really studying well in my dorm. And I know there's been some shifts with some of those common community rooms this semester as far as having access to space. So it is definitely valid. I want to mention that. But yeah, so those are some tips that come to mind. My apologies for stepping away. My son called me from school. So yeah, okay.
Totally
Yeah.
okay. Totally okay.
So
So
like,
the last 2 questions actually in the Q&A are quite similar. So I think we can kind of lump them together. Is kind of asking about, how do you, as like a parent or a family member, help your student get over that anxiety of asking for help, or kind of that like rebellious, I don't need help, like I can do it on my own, but you can obviously see that they're struggling. What are some tips you would give parents and family members to be able to support their student, to be like, hey, asking for help is not scary, or it's not an anxiety inducing thing?
Yeah, so that is definitely real and complicated. So I've seen it a few different ways. I've seen it honestly where, I'm gonna be real with y'all. Parents flex, they're like, I need you to do this, and they initiate the thread of communication. So I've seen it that way, where it's parent, student, plus myself typically, and they're like, hey, there no details. They probably email me separately with the details. So students don't know that I know as much as I know, right? But it may be like, hey, here's the person I was telling you about, Susie, you know, Sharnita will follow up with you, and I would love for you to meet with Sharnita. I've seen that. I've also seen parents say, hey, this day, this time, 3 of us are all going to be in your office, and I'm going to make sure that's a little more extreme. And I will say, it doesn't go off the best with the student when it's kind of like that level of pressure. But I would say if the parent can kind of prime them and say, hey, I actually, you know, reached out to somebody on campus, they'll contact you first. Typically that works really well for the students, because they're like, okay, it's like the olive branch is already extended to me. Now I just got to coordinate. And I say, hey, I'm like, would love to meet up with you. And they know it's like no pressure. I do tell them typically why I'm reaching out, but it's really vague. Like, hey, I just heard you may could use some additional support this semester. Let's talk, let's go meet for coffee or something. Like, some students prefer more informal. Some students prefer we may go to the dining hall together. So it's just a matter of like, hey, let's get it started. And once they put a face with the voice and remove titles and all the other things, once they realize I'm really normal, like goofy, they're like, oh, I'll talk to you, whatever, who cares? You know, but otherwise it's this like assumption of like, oh, I'm gonna be turned away and it's gonna be negative, and I just don't want to do it because of the risk and harm that is justifiable, I will say, and they may have had experience with it before, and I don't want to be the one to judge that as well. And I see a few other specific diagnoses listed inside of the chat as well. While we don't have spots right now in our As You Are program, that program is under me, and I didn't mention it in the talk because I was trying to like go through overview what may be for most, and actually everybody may actually need that, who knows. But if need be, I can always, because I have that coverage of it, and say, hey, do you have any of your peer mentors in the program? While we may not have space for the student program, I'm sure I could find an hour and a peer mentor who would meet with the student, who can understand that, right? And say, oh, okay, here's some general tips, even if they're not in the program. So that's something, that we can do. And I've done that in the past. But main thing is for parents to just reach out and say, hey, here's what's going on. And I say, here's 3 routes I'm thinking. And you say, let's try 1, 2, 3. And then it's just like trial and error and go. Because what works for one student may not work for another. But having, flexibility in that approach, and especially being a freshman, in your question, they're not going to just come by and knock on my door, right? It's going to be, hey, somebody's expecting to see you. And I also say sometimes they'll miss the appointments the first couple times. And I just email mom on the side or parent and be like, they didn't show up. They didn't show up. And then finally I'll send an email, and I'm pretty candid with students. Pretty much what you see is what you get. And I'm like, hey, I valued the importance of this meeting, and my time is valuable, and I've carved out, I always meet with students at least an hour. I gave you an hour of my time. You get one more offer of this hour, and that's all I got for you. And then the students like, oh my gosh, I'm so, and they showed up early for the next time, right? And I knew it was a challenge for that student, but then once I realized it was an organizational issue, that's why they didn't remember. It wasn't like, sure, Anita, you're not important enough to meet with, but I had to make it clear. And then I told the mom, I said, hey, just like I told you, the student didn't come to the meeting. They finally made it to the meeting. And we had a really productive, and they were like, oh my gosh, it's giving me so much relief. And I was like, I don't have to tell you that, but I'm going to let you know. Little Johnny came by, and it was cool. We met, we talked, and they have a plan for the rest of the semester. So those are some general things. I hope I answered some of your questions, but that's kind of how I've established this role, is that it's not a perfect box, and as involved as I need to be, I get for certain students. Even if it is a student like, oh, we have 20,000 students, that's fine. If you're the one parent who asks for help for your one student, then I'm going to try to help figure out a plan for your student. I can't speak on the other 19,000 parents, who never try to connect the dots that way. So every student is important. I want to emphasize that, because with large size, and again, I want parents either to be intimidated by roles and so forth. They'd be like, you still meet with students? Yes, it's no surprise. I see a student every day, all day. And it's fine, because I need to know some of those issues, and you never know how that situation represents many other things that are ongoing for other students. And so it helps us as an institution inform our practices, our behaviors, our communication, and so forth. So it's helping us overall. So make sure you send me info about your student, and we will get a plan in place. Okay. All right.
Sweet.
Next question.
I think we got one last quick one. Someone was asking about, when does registration open again for kind of those As You Are programs?
So right now there's a waitlist application. I encourage them to, and I'm sorry, I did not give you the link for that, but As You Are upstate, it should pop up. If you can find a link for me, Zoe.
I just dropped it in the chat. You're good.
Perfect.
Think about it. So right now it's waitlist, but we are revamping a few things with the program, and y'all know they learn. I like structure, fun fact. So I'm like, hey, if this is a free resource as it is right now, I need people to show up. Students, they got to show up. And so it's always an opportunity for spaces to open up based on students' participation. Sometimes they're in the program because they parents want them to be in it. That doesn't mean the student wants to be in it. And sometimes students will show you better than they can tell you. They were like, sign me up for that, but I'm not doing anything. So complete the wait list survey that's on the website right now. And they are cycling through that right now for the spring. But even if, and I want to put that out there because I know it's going to be recorded. So, okay, even if there aren't any spaces available for As You Are, there are still other resources we have in student success to piece together support for your student. So it doesn't have to be all or none. And I think sometimes we're just used to that. Like, it doesn't have to fit in either box. It can still be my student, because the needs don't change, right? Your student is still going to need all of those things, whether they're in the program or not, right? And so my goal is, okay, if there is no space in that program, is it for your student, they need to do biweekly meetings? Cool. Give me a schedule. We'll figure out bi-weekly meetings. Do you want to set up then have academic coaching appointments at least once a month? We can get those scheduled. Writing center every other month. I mean, all these students are going to be like, we can figure it out, right? If you need an academic referral meeting, even if you just want to meet with an academic coach outside of the peer coach, we have some other professionals who do that as well as through other processes that I manage. So it's always a way to create a plan, even if it's not the plan that sometimes students are real focused on, like, oh, sorry, that didn't work. Guess I just don't need it and I won't get it. No, it's important for your students to advocate for what they need. And if they won't, I know y'all will, make sure they get what they need from the institution, right? We don't want them to graduate and be like, I had a horrible time. It was a terrible experience, all because I didn't get into program X. There are a lot of students with a lot of invisible identities and diagnoses and so forth. Everybody isn't in that program. That program serves 200 students, no, 100. I got a lot of programs under me. That program serves 100 students, not 200, 100 students. That's not nearly putting a dent into the number of students who likely have ADHD, autism, and many other anxiety, all the combination of things, right? So making sure they know we have other things in place. And that's where I think my positionality can help, and making sure people will be willing to make sure that we get something figured out. So I want to offer that as alternative as well, because I can't speak for if an actual spot will be open by time you do the application and all those things, but I can say we can figure out how to put something in place to make sure your students still feel supported. Like, that's what we all here for. So, okay, I'll be quiet now. Y'all know I'm long with it. So, okay. Is that all the questions?
Yeah, I think that we hit all of the questions. So if you do have anything else that has not been dropped in the Q&A,
Okay.
Zoe is going to put that email in one more time. So if you all have any questions that we didn't get to today, we will be glad to answer those. Someone will get back to you and answer your question personally. Sometimes things are more specific to your student. That's
They
great
always
too.
are. They always
Yeah.
are. Students the same way. I give open house orientation. I talk to people all day, literally.
Oh,
all
yeah.
day. They will be like, then right after, the students may say, hey, can you be my mentor? Like, that's where the real interactions happen, is one-on-one. So have your student not be afraid to ask. Send an email. You all have information, I'm sure, from Haley and Zoe, excuse me. And yeah, and I will definitely be in touch. And I may not be the next day, may take me a couple of days too, but usually when it's student things, I get to it a lot sooner. My colleagues know I'll get y'all stuff too, but it's kind of stuff I want to make sure, because time really sometimes is of the essence. And I don't, it takes time to coordinate, plan. And so once you all feel it's priority, it becomes priority for me and my team. I say team, but it'd probably be me, be quite honest. So if y'all see me, don't be surprised. Be like, girl, it is just you. And you said you have a team. I do have a team, but I have 25 people on my team, but they all got a lot going on. I can only say what Sharnita has free on her schedule. So if they end up being with me, sorry, not sorry, but I usually enjoy it. And then I can't get rid of them. They don't want to be with me forever till they graduate. So it's all good. So if it's me, don't be surprised either. They were like, girl, friends.
And our team gets to work really closely with Sharnita and her team, which is great. So if for any reason you're like, I don't know where to start, I have questions, I feel like they go in a lot of different directions. We're a great place to start too. If it's not just student success, or if it is, like, we all work very closely together. And so I appreciate you guys attending today. This is great. I've learned a lot from being here. I hope that it's been beneficial for each of you as well. Of all of this, I hope that you take out of this that we care very much about your students. We want them to have a strong transition. We want them to feel supported while they're here at App State. And we'll do anything in our power to make sure they feel that way. So this webinar has been recorded, and this will be posted on the Mountaineer Family Experience portal in the next week or so. So if you need to reference it later, or have a friend, or you want your student to watch this, that's fine too. All of those things they'll have the ability to access those things through the link to the portal. So thanks for being here. We'll go ahead and wrap up